Well, hello everyone. 4 days left in the Kickstarter. I'm making an animated TV show pilot. It's a sci-fi fantasy thing. It's called The Oracle of Outer Space. And it is starring Dweezil Zappa, Mike Keneally, Leanna Vamp, Joni Brosis, John Schnepp of Metalocalypse and Space Ghost Coast to Coast. He was an editor years. I think he was the original video editor back when the thing was just in a closet. Oh, look at that. 2 viewers. Welcome, viewers. Hello, Diana. John Schnepp. Clark Wolf will be doing a voice. And Ebony Amber. Who have we got watching here? Okay. Let me see if I can... Oh, Robin Ekman. Holy crap. Welcome, Robin. I've seen your online adventures. Al Omega is here. Oh, Lewis Taylor is back again. Let's see, how do I... It helps if I view this here somehow. Oh, how weird. Maybe if I go to my page, I can see it. Does anyone have any questions that I can answer? Any topics I can talk about while I try to bring up this thing over here? There it is. I can now see what people are writing. And welcome back, Lewis Taylor. Oracle of Outer Space, animated sci-fi fantasy TV show pilot. It's going to be about 11 and a half minutes, right around in there, 11 and a half or so. That's typically the length of one of these short episodes on Adult Swim. It's very expensive to get animation like that done in a professional way. So that's why we're doing this fundraiser. Plot points. I'd rather keep it a bit of a mystery and a surprise rather than talking about it too much in advance. I like showing the characters and things like that. I don't know about talking about the plot. I just feel like it would ruin things. But it is a group of characters who are running the last remaining AM radio station in outer space. I can tell you the quick story of how I got inspired to do this. The wife and I were on a long road trip in the desert. It was kind of spontaneous too, because we went out to Las Vegas for a few days and walked around. And then we decided, hey, let's drive out in the desert and try to find Art Bell's house. So we drove out to Pahrump. We went driving around, sightseeing, drove by and pointed at his house. There it is. Keep going. You don't want to disturb these people. Let him have his privacy enough. Driving past is just enough. Then we decided, let's drive out to, I think maybe it was the next day, or I think it was the next day. We drove out to Area 51, I think. Or was it the day before? Must have been the day after. Drove out to Area 51 and stopped at this little... They have a trailer out there by Area 51. And it's like the only thing you can stop at, really, anywhere near there. They got this creepy little trailer with it's like a mobile home converted into a diner, like visitor center, run by, I guess, the people who live in the trailers around there. It's just like a little mini trailer park on the side of the road. We went in there and, I don't know, ate some pretzels or something, sat down there. The Little Alien. Weird little place. And on the walls, they had like Polaroids of a bunch of famous conspiracy theory people that I used to read books of. I think there was like a photo of Whitley Strieber, maybe, and a photo of... I'm now suddenly blanking on his name. The guy who wrote Behold a Pale Horse. He's a William Cooper, Bill Cooper, interesting character. think there's a photo of him there. All the different people who visited throughout the years. Yeah, Cooper. And I missed those years of driving in the middle of the night listening to Coast to Coast AM with Art Bell. And I used to stay up really late when I was doing the Sir Millard Mulch thing. I'd stay up stay up late at night while I was working on things, and I'd have Art Bell playing in the background like all night. I'd go to work and I would have, listen to the Real Audio broadcasts. So anyway, we were at this little alien. There's all this cool stuff, like creepy old Polaroids of these people that I thought, wow, I'm in this same weird little diner thing. It's not even a diner. It was like a trailer or something. Mobile home? Converted mobile home? And like you'd be sitting at a little table and you look up and there's a little Polaroid stuck on the wall of like William Cooper. Wow, the guy was right here or something. Weird stuff. And we actually, a couple of friends of mine, we did a parody tour in the year 2000, I believe. We went on the road in my friend Flail, his van, and the three of us drove all the way across the country, performing as a traveling version of the Art Bell Coast to Coast AM show. We used the music and everything, and we had this whole performance art thing where we had a big fake broadcast antenna and horrible radio noises, and we had commercials, and we just opened up for bands pretending that we were doing a live version of the Coast to Coast AM show. And I was the musical guest, Sir Millard Mulch. And I was very uncooperative with the host. So at some point in the show, we had all these lights and the on the air sign and everything and a big antenna and all this stuff. And I had this master power switch underneath the table. And we were doing a show at the, what's it called? Bar of Soap in Dallas, Texas, where the original Book of Subgenius, Church of the Subgenius people used to perform and hang out. Bar of Soap. And we were doing the show and probably opening for some band or something, and people are watching us like, what the hell are these people doing? And, a few people would get it and laugh, but for the most part, we were just doing this bizarre thing. Most people didn't even listen to Coast AM, so they didn't even get the joke. But at some point, we would start having all this radio interference, and we would start turning up all this screeching noise and static, and we would say that there was a solar flare and problems with the station, and then I would hit a button underneath the desk, and everything would shut off. Just complete silence. Our PA would go out, the lights would go out, and then we'd start acting like we had blown a fuse, and then the owner of the place was running around checking the fuses and going outside, and he couldn't figure out what was going on, and the show was interrupted. Those are fun things to do when you're in your mid-20s driving around with your friends. So we played shows, did these performances all the way across, sleeping on people's couches from Florida all the way to Oakland. So the first night, I think, was at Dottie's in Atlanta, and we opened up for Heinous Beanfang, and he got naked on stage, and he had a fake, like a police officer come in and arrest him, but apparently they were friends, but nobody knew this, but it was like a real police officer, and Heinous is naked, and the police officer is dragging him around everywhere, and I think there was the usual buckets of blood throwing all over the place, and there was this big window behind the stage facing the parking lot, so you could see the people in the parking lot. And before Heinous Beanfang went on stage, him and his guitarist pretended to get in a fight on the other side of the window, and they were really hitting each other, beating the crap out of each other on the stage behind a window. So there was always some kind of spectacle, craziness going on. And then one of the people that was performing with me got attacked by a guy in a wheelchair. The guy in the wheelchair was grabbing his jacket and shaking him really hard and cussing at him and hitting him. And then we drove on to Alabama and stayed with a friend there. And we played in a clothing store. Somebody let us play in a clothing store. We played in a comic book shop. We didn't play. We just did our performance, our live thing. And the whole time this was in the early days of cell phones. So I had this Altel cell flip phone thing. And I had called before I went on the tour and told them, I want to max out the minutes and get the highest plan I can because I'm going to be driving across the country, roaming, and I need to bring people on to this radio performance that I'm doing. So I'd have all my friends back at home being callers into the fake Art Bell show. And I had this little thing I'd stick up to play their phone call through the speakers. And we did this whole tour. And when I got home, I got a cell phone bill for like $6,000 or something. Insane. Because they had misunderstood on the phone when I said I wanted the maximum minutes. They put me on the minimum minutes, where I had like the 10-minute plan or something. And I had just talked for hours all the way across the country and back with roaming charges and just overage charges. And it was totally insane. I still have the cell phone bill somewhere. It's crazy. Thousands of dollars. And they shut down my account. I went to collections and I owed them thousands of dollars. I was selling stuff to try to pay them off. And took years. It was a terrible mess. Anyway, then we played in a clothing store, as I said. We played at a comic book store. Is anybody typing on there? I can't see. Comic book store. Then we drove to Dallas, Texas and did the Bar of Soap. And then we drove to Flagstaff, Arizona, and I don't think we did anything there. I think we just rested and then drove by that point we were in New Mexico, and I was so angry with one of the people I was performing with. After riding with him in the car all the way to New Mexico, we had run out of gas and stopped at a rest area. We barely had enough gas to get to the next gas station because it was like the middle of the night. And what we didn't know is that in these areas, all of the gas stations close at dark. So if you're out, you just keep driving until you can't go anymore. So we had no way of, cell phones were dead, and he was clowning around and running around, driving us crazy. We'd go in the bathroom stall and he would just follow us into the bathroom stall. I hated this guy by the time we got out to New Mexico, and I was pressuring the driver of the van to just leave him in the desert. Like I wanted him left in the desert at that point. And so we finally made it into California the next day, and then didn't have anywhere to stay somewhere in San Francisco. We couldn't get a hold of the people we were staying with. We were driving around and around, and we were going to sleep in a park, and then we drove out in Oakland. We stayed with Ralph Spite from Victim's Family. And I think the next day, maybe we did a show opening for Captured by Robots in San Francisco. Captured by Robots is an interesting robot band. Like actual robots played the instruments. This guy had programmed robots to play guitar and drums and interact with him on stage. And he was the slave to the robots. This guy named J-Bot. Anyway, and then we got kicked out of the place we were staying because the host hated the guy that we brought to, so nobody could stand him, and then we took him out and we were going to buy him a bus ticket back home. Somehow he apologized or we didn't do it. It was just unbelievable. And then we went to do our final show of the tour, the Coast to Coast AM fake radio broadcast, and we get to this little weird little bar it was like a pub for dock workers and stuff in Oakland. I don't know why we ended up getting this gig at like a seafood restaurant or something. And this lady comes out and wouldn't let us go on stage. And we had a video camera. We recorded it, and unfortunately I don't know where the tapes ever went. But this lady screaming at us to get out of the restaurant, which we were booked to perform at a pub restaurant thing. So the last show was canceled, and we never got to do the final show of the tour. And then we hung around San Francisco a little bit, had some more drama, and then we had to drive all the way home to Florida. And I almost got in a fist fight with the other performer because I was at a gas station and he got out of the van and I'm standing there and all of a sudden I get hit in the back of the head with a big pile of muddy, gasoline, oily snow and crap that he had scooped off of the thing and smacked me in the back of the head with it. And I went after him and I kicked him in the stomach and then I cocked back my fist to punch him in the face and he was kind of doubled over. And I just started yelling at him and he just kind of looked like you were beating me up or something. So finally we had to get back in the car and then we were yelling at each other and we had to drive all the way to Florida. And at some point after days of this insanity of going like 100 miles an hour, because the driver of the van no longer wanted to be in the van with either of us. He was probably ready to throw both of us out. And the other guy had dented up our van and he had like punched it and stuff and left like a big oil slick in the back from his dirty feet, like rubbing his feet. He was constantly chewing things really loud behind us. First thing that happens when we get in the van to drive on this tour, he had been dumpster diving and he's wearing this big dirty jacket. And the first thing, he hadn't had a shower in days. And the first thing he does when he gets in the van is he takes off his shoes and socks and puts them up right by my head and is just laughing. And he's just like torturing us all the way to California. So anyway, we hated this guy by the time we got back to Florida. So we barely made it back. I tried to get out of the van in Gainesville. I was like begging the driver to please just let me out. I can't handle anymore. I was going to have a panic attack after going like 100 miles an hour from California all the way to Florida for like days. We had barely had any sleep. We were going to kill each other. I wanted out of the van. Finally, he just let me drive, and I drove like 50 miles an hour the rest of the way because I was about to snap. Anyway, those are the days of the Art Bell Coast to Coast AM fake radio tour that we did. I actually have a full soundboard recording somewhere of the show. Which is kind of terrible. It was kind of funny in a negative land. We were trying, okay? We tried to do something interesting. Liam Donovan, thank you for saying that you enjoy Why I Am So Wise, Why I'm So Clever, and Why I Write Such Good Songs, the Dr. Zoltan record. Does anyone have any suggestions or topics? I'm doing a Kickstarter for this thing, trying to raise $10,000 to pay for all the animation. It's only going to the animation. Julian Bravery. All the money for this goes straight to the animator, Lance Myers, who designed these characters. And I'm spending the rest out of pocket. All of this stuff already that we did, I hired him to draw these characters. I paid for that myself. I'm paying the voice actors, paying the writers out of pocket. So thousands of dollars goes to that already. The actual show going forward, $10,000 is the expected cost, all to the animator for his fee. So this is not a profitable project for me. I'm doing it just to make a crazy show. And we still need about $2,000 in the next 4 days. We recently just had someone pledge $1,000 anonymously today, which I guess you can do. Pledged $1,000 as a guest, and they still haven't created an account. guest number 1315695326. So thank you, guest 1315695326. It's a long name. I'll never remember it. So if anyone wants to help out with this thing, if you haven't helped out already, we have autographed Blu-rays. I'll get them autographed by all of the actors: Dweezil Zappa, Joni Brosis, Leanna Vamp, Mike Keneally, me, the writers. We're all going to scribble all over the Blu-ray. We got t-shirts, autographed scripts, movie poster. I'm going to try to do a movie poster, like pretty big, like this. I think that's how big it's going to be. 27 by 40. It's like a real movie poster size. Full color, glossy. It'll look nice. Does anyone have anything they would like to say or add in to help us stay on track here? Because I'm just rambling at this point. You can go to oracleofouterspace.com. I set up that URL to forward to the Kickstarter page. So, oracleofouterspace.com. I'm wearing my Star Wars hat today. I'm a little bit hungry. I'm on a break from work. I'm on my lunch break, and I have about 15 minutes before I need to get back to work. I'm doing a video shoot today, some guitar videos, and the person who's on camera is coming back in 15 minutes to film more. So I need to eat and be ready for that in the next 15 minutes, but I wanted to go on here, talk about this thing. So who's watching? Who have we got? Anybody there? I don't know what's going on. Oh, look, I can see there's... Oh. Al Omega is there watching still. Thank you, Al. Al, I want to thank you for all of your support. You've really been super helpful throughout this thing. I see you reposting all the things on Facebook. I think you're a really good guy. I met Al Omega at Son of Monsterpalooza. Interesting look with the shaved head, the eye patch, sort of a creepy, what do you call it, a business suit or tuxedo or something? Sort of a business suit walking around, nice jacket. He's the host of a thing called Creature Features. I think it's Creature Features, right? Where he plays very strange, old, obscure horror movies on YouTube. He posts them up there with a little introduction. I used to watch a guy in Florida when I was a little kid on WTOG 44. It was even black and white at the time, I think. This was in the late 70s. I'm that old, I think. Used to watch Creature Feature. It was called back then, but this is a different Creature Features. But this one was hosted by Dr. Paul Bearer. Interesting character, an influence on Dr. Zoltan. I was trying to do a Dr. Paul Bearer type thing. So that's what happens when you show a little kid Creature Features when he's 4 or 5 years old, watching that on, I think it was like Saturday afternoons, Sunday afternoons, Dr. Paul Bearer. Odd thing, years later I was working at a telemarketing job, and one of the guys who worked there, a telemarketer, told me, you know, you look like you could be the son of Dr. Paul Bearer. And I didn't take that as a compliment, because he was a very ugly character. But still kind of a neat coincidence, because I did want to be like him. Anybody else? Paul Bearer. Al Omega, do you remember Paul Bearer? Or do you just like the name Dr. Paul Bearer? Did you ever see clips of him? There's a bunch of clips of him on YouTube. He's great. Very low budget. It was like in, I think it was based in St. Petersburg, Florida. Just a local WTOG. You saw his clips. That's great. Cool character. Yes, very low budget. I think it was black and white. See if I can bring that up. Look on YouTube. Dr. Paul Bearer. There's tons of outtakes you can see. What's Dweezil Zappa like? I can tell you that. Dweezil, my reference point for him in what I always think of him as, I always think of Dweezil within the context of all of these LA people that I work with and rock star types, he's one of the only kind of rock star dudes that just acts like a normal guy with me. And I feel when I'm working with him that he's just a friend of mine. And I just think of him as someone who's hiring me to, help him work on his video stuff or whatever. And he's just totally normal. He doesn't, at least with me, he doesn't have like a big pretense like a lot of people do. Seems like at some point you run into this weird, like, what's going on? Why are they acting special? Like a lot of people in LA have a weird special thing going on. Like, I'm specialer than you. Like, everybody's special, but in some way, but, right? Isn't that what Mr. Rogers says? But a lot of people like to be like, oh, I'm one of the chosen special, famous people. And you have to you get the worst, you get the crappy seat, you get the leftover, I'm the special one or something like that. Okay. I mean, if you're the client or something and you're the star of something I'm making a video, of course you get the, special treatment in some way. But not just in everyday life. And Dweezil doesn't seem to do that. At least when I'm around him. He's just a normal dude. He's been super supportive of this thing. Him and his wife have been really, really nice and supportive of it. They just tend to be normal. It's crazy. He always seems to, backstage or whatever, he's always just sitting there with his guitar. And I walk up, what's going on? And we talk about random things that don't have to do with anything. And he doesn't ever talk down to me or act like he's more specialer. So that is a extremely relieving thing in the LA area. Because somehow people believe their own publicity, as it is said. And he is one of the people that is just focused on the work and doing his thing. He seems to be exactly the same on stage as he is off stage. He walks in with his guitar. He doesn't put on a big pretentious show. He just plays. He's making music. When he's backstage, he's making music. He's very dedicated to his kids. Whenever his kids are around, he is with them 100%, no matter if he's at a Hollywood thing or whatever. Keeps it really tight and close with the family. Like that is his focus. And that's an admirable thing to see. And you can just tell with the way that he treats them so important with all the other things going around and being on stage or whatever and publicity and people taking photos. It's just like he's focused on them. And it's very easy to get sucked into that world of like, oh, there's photos and people talking to you and all kinds of things happening. And he's just a down-to-earth guy. So I very much respect that about him. Any other thoughts before I eat as fast as I can for 10 minutes before getting back to work? Remember, doing this Kickstarter, going for $10,000. We're at 81% at the moment. If you haven't pledged already, just go to oracleofouterspace.com. It'll take you to the Kickstarter. We've got Dweezil Zappa, Joni Brosis, Ebony Amber, Clark Wolf, John Schnepp, Mike Keneally, who just joined, Leanna Vamp, all interesting people, all interesting voices. Head over to oracleofouterspace.com and watch the trailer if you have not already. I just did a mass mailing last night. Me and my wife just finished stuffing 305 envelopes full of stuff and mailing it physically to people. So if you have ever purchased something on my store and you live in the United States, you're probably going to be getting an envelope in the next few days begging you to support this thing and thanking you, of course. I'm not planning to do a main character voice. I feel like my voice is too conspicuous. Thank you, Al, for showing the trailer on your show. I'll probably do some kind of secondary voice somewhere. My voice will probably be on it as some sort of background thing, but I'm not planning to do a voice myself. because it kind of ruins it for me. When I hear my voice, it takes me out of the illusion, if that makes any sense. I don't hate my voice or anything. I don't have any problem. I'm not one of those people who's like, oh, I hate how my voice sounds. I've heard it so many times on recordings that I'm very used to it. But I think there's so many more interesting people with interesting voices, and it's more fun for me to hear other people playing characters. I wouldn't have as much fun doing that because I've heard my voice endlessly. So I think with that, I'm going to log off of here. I'm going to be doing a bunch of these. I'll be on here all the time in the next few days. I'm going to try to do a live talk with my co-writers, His Cheap Moves and Level Nivello. I'll bring them on and we'll BS about the script. Maybe not about the script, but you know what I mean. All right, oracleofouterspace.com. Thank you, everyone, for joining me.